Hello from Volvo Ocean Race headquarters in Alicante. We've got a special guest joining us in the studio right now. We've got Annie Lush, a member of Team Brunel, not on the boat, but here to answer your questions. And, you know, unfortunately, I hate to say, we are very happy that she is here, but it's unfortunate circumstances. An injury taking you off. How's the recovery going?
Well, the injury was in leg 3, and I was hopeful to get back in Hong Kong, but I was still wearing a boot at the time on my foot. It came off 3 days ago, so now I'm finally wearing my shoes again. And yeah, it's going well, but just trying to get all the movement back.
I think, fingers crossed, we see you back on the boat soon. So time is running out. She's here with us today. She's going to be with us tomorrow. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. Annie will be with us at the end of the show to answer your questions about, well, what's got her to this incredibly lofty height in offshore sailing. Plus, we're going to be hearing from the teams, crucially, Team Axonabel, who are doing very well right now out in the water. Also, we're going to be having a weather update from our race expert, Will Harris. And it is unbelievably tight out on the water at the moment. Overall race leaders, Mafre, are just pulling out all the stops. The navigator, the trimmers, everybody weighing in to try and find some extra speed because Dongfeng race team are hot on their heels. These two boats, since jibing off yesterday, have been pushing themselves to the limit. And they are absolutely matched. Jibe for jibe, speed for speed. But it's not helping them. If we take a look at the tracker, in this leg at least, overall race leaders Mafre are not in the lead. In fact, anything but. On top of them, we've got Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic, and overall race leader Mafre having to watch Sun Hunkai Scallywag in the south push through, and Team Axonabel in the lead. And we caught up with crew member Nikolai Siested to get his take on just how well this leg is going so far.
So yeah, we have around a couple of miles ahead of the guys behind us, and Scallywag to leeward. It's a tricky position because we're not quite sure how it's going to work out for Scallywag. You know, being just to leeward of us in sort of the same latitude. But we'll have to see how that plays out and how we got here. You know, it's just normal good sailing, good sort of a little bit of luck. You need that as well. But it's been sailing the boat fast and trying to use whatever shift we got at the time.
Would it be fair to say that this has all been down to just good boat speed?
For sure, you know, boat speed is crucial, and we're quite happy with our boat speed. We're in a strong position right now because we've been fast the last few days, and we've been, you know, locking the boat in and find a good mode. What we've been doing, I can't quite say, but you know, we're definitely fast and feeling comfortable. But that being said, you know, it's a long way to go, and hopefully our boat speed can take us first to the doldrums, and if first in means first out of the doldrums, that would be really, really good for us. But you know, after that, a lot of things will happen, and a lot of uncertainties is waiting there. You know, we might lose the lead, but hopefully we got speed to regain it, and we're prepared for all these sort of things to come at us. This is what this race is about. You're never sure until you actually park the boat in the dock in Auckland.
Well, there's a long way to go, as you say, and with the fleet so spread out, you're going to have to work pretty hard. I'm guessing you are working pretty close to your limit.
We're only getting started, mate. Don't you worry. We got plenty to give, but no, for sure we are working hard, and everyone's sticking in. It's tricky conditions, you know. It's easy to go fast, but it's really, really hard to go super fast. So yeah, we're gonna have to work hard for that. And as a side, you know, story right now, I just blew up a hydraulic ram on board, so most of the night is also gonna be, you know, working with that thing at the same time sailing the boat. So yeah, there's a bit on, but it's good fun, and we enjoy it, and we're having a good time at the same time.
Well, I can hear the smile from here. If I could just ask you, what hydraulic ram was it? What's the extent of the damage?
It's not too bad. We just lost a hydraulic ram for the Cunningham of the mainsail. So yeah, we're going old school right now, you know, adjusting the mainsail with a rope. I learned that in my Optimist time, and it seems to be working as well on a 65, so we'll keep doing that, and who knows, we might never use the right ram again for the Cunningham.
Nikolai Siested, and a small problem on board Team Axonabel, but easily solved, it turns out. But it doesn't stop there. The weather is still going to be a bit of a factor. I've got Will Harris here to help explain exactly what's coming up. But, I mean, Will, you wanted to come and talk about the weather. Right now, it's trade wind sailing. It is blasting along. We're seeing some incredible speeds and daily runs. When's this first bump in the road going to come?
Yeah, so basically now the fleet are going to be in the trade winds for the next 36 hours, and then just north of the equator, they're going to hit the first signs of the doldrums.
And the doldrums that we saw last time on leg 4, I mean, that was incredibly brutal. 4 or 5 days, all the boats parked up. Is it going to be as bad?
Yeah, you're right. It was really bad last time for the boats, but it's looking a lot different this time. They're actually going to have some pretty decent breeze working their way through the doldrums. Okay,
so talk me through the differences. Why is it going to be fundamentally different this time around?
So basically what they've got is we've got Cyclone Gita down in the South Pacific, and it's going to be making its way towards Auckland over the next few days. Now what that means is for the doldrums, we normally have a sort of a slow easterly flow, but this time it's going to be westerly, and that's actually going to bring sort of 15 to 20 knots just south of the equator where we'd normally expect the doldrums to be, which is really going to help the boats along. So
help the boats along a little bit, a difference in wind direction, but that kind of blows out all the sort of rules of thumb that a lot of these sailors stick to. So what are their options for getting through it and getting through it fast?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got two options here. So as the cyclone works its way south, it's actually going to bring quite a large area of light winds just south of where we'd expect the doldrums to be. And what that means, the fleet can either try and dive south and get straight past this light winds area, or they can try and work their way east. And although they spend more time in the light winds, it actually set them up for a much better angle on their final approach to Auckland.
And if you were on board one of the boats, you know, if you were out there navigating, I'm gonna pin him to this. What would you say? What one is going to be the one that wins?
I mean, it's a tricky decision to be making this early on, but, you know, I'd be looking at all the weather files as much as possible, keep checking the satellite imagery and seeing how this cyclone develops. But I think for me, I'd be trying to work towards the east. Get into that better angle wind and see how it goes.
I was really worried for a minute you were going to try and worm out of that one, but well done. Thank you very much for giving me an answer. Now, Will does work in the background here as a race expert, and I know you've got a position report to do, so I will let you get back to that. Meanwhile, I'm going to give you a bit of an update here on where we are with our competition. If you've been following the show for the last few days, you will know a Garmin Verb 360 camera can be yours. What you've got to do is you've got to take a guess, and time is running out on which boat is going to be the first team to cross the equator, which boat, on which day, and which time in UTC. You have to go to the comments section on this video or any of the quick fix videos or daily show videos. On the comment section, put the symbol @ and then on Facebook, tag the team. A little menu will appear. Select the team that you want, put in the team that you want to appear, then put the date, then the time in UTC. Competition closes midnight UTC tonight. You can enter as many times as you like, but if you get the same answer as somebody else, whoever got there first, whoever was brave enough, they will be the person that wins. Don't forget, we have got Annie Lush here for you in the studio. She is here to answer your questions, and what a powerhouse of a sailor she is. She has done 3 Olympic campaigns. She did the Volvo Ocean Race on the last edition with Team SEA, now an integral part of Team Brunel. Sadly, an injury forced her off the boat, but we've got her here in the studio. So get your questions in and let's hear what Annie has to say. And you've already been sending some of your questions in, so let's just jump straight into the deep end, Annie. Peter and Hamish Munro asks, what was Annie's career path to basically be involved with the Volvo Ocean Race, and what advice do you have for becoming an offshore sailor? So first of all, what on earth led to you being, in the Volvo Ocean Race?
Yeah, well, I certainly wasn't an offshore sailor to begin with. I really come from Olympic sailing. And actually, I had a strange path into that because I was also a rower before that. So I don't think that, I wasn't 7 years old watching the Whitbread and thinking I want to do this race, but it sort of evolved from Olympic sailing and actually match racing in Brazil. The next thing, I saw the Volvo Ocean Race coming into Brazil. This is quite a few years ago. And I thought, wow, I want to do this.
Well, we're just having a look at a couple of pictures here. I mean, you teamed up with Sally Barco some time ago, got into match racing, then, of course, the Olympics as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big key here was that I was actually trialling for the Olympics in 2004 against Sally, and neither of us made it, but we went on to sail other boats, and that was, we won our first Women's Killboat Championship together, and then actually 2 World Match Racing Championships together, and then raced against each other again when match racing became Olympic, and we were again against each other, and I sailed for GB, obviously her for the USA, and then back together again for Team SEA around the world.
Now, you see, you mentioned Team SEA. I mean, we've got some incredible footage of you guys sailing in the last edition of the race, and this was something of a bit of a breakthrough to have an all-female team, back in the race, back pushing hard.
I mean, such an opportunity, and especially for sailors like myself who came from a very different background, because Team SEA were really searching for female sailors from all different disciplines, and that's really what gave us a chance. I spent 2.5 years with the team. That's a lot of time to learn how to sail offshore, and I'm pretty sure without that team, I don't think a lot of us would be here today. So it was, very beneficial.
And some success as well from Team SEA. I think you won the leg from Lisbon, I think. And also, I mean, this kind of led to the Magenta project as well. Once Team SEA, it was confirmed that sadly you weren't going to be in the next edition of the race, the sort of goodwill and the momentum was taken forward.
Yeah, I mean, we won the leg into Lorient, and that was right near the end of the race. And I think Libby Greenhouse said at the time, it feels like we've just started something, and now it's got to stop. Yeah. And I think we all felt that. And we'd had so many people following us, and so many women saying that they'd been inspired by it, that we felt that we just couldn't stop. So yes, we created the Magenta Project, and I think I've sailed with over 60 different girls in the last year, you know, leading up to this race, in all different kinds of boats, and it's been great.
And the aim of the Magenta Project, I mean, this is about helping female sailors, kind of giving them that little bit of a push?
Yeah, I mean, we've sailed with all different levels of sailors, but a lot of them very talented sailors, maybe from dinghy or Olympic backgrounds, and, you know, transferring from that into the bigger boats is a difficult step, and it's very difficult to get on board big boats, as you know as well. So really just trying to help them get into bigger teams and learn new skills so that they can come for Volvo trials and not feel threatened by having to use a winch or, you know, putting a reef in, and really being able to take that next step.
Okay, well, let's try and impart some of your knowledge then on some of the fans that have been following this race. We've got a question here from Jan Dorset, who asks, why do you sometimes sail with 3 sails forward and sometimes only 1 sail forward? So head sails, stay sails, just explain to us the basics.
Yeah, I mean...
That's a hard one.
It's always fun when you're triple heading, is what we call it, when we've got 3 sails on the front, and we get quite short of winches at the back when we're doing that. So you really, it's a bit of cat's cradle on board. You have to really work out where you're going to lead all of the sheets when you do that. But, I mean, obviously you're adding power as you add staysails, and it actually makes quite a big difference to the speed. I mean, it can be a knot difference or more with even just putting up the J3, the smallest staysail. So when you can fit them in, you do, basically.
And we're seeing some footage here. I mean, this was Team Brunel. This is the sort of thing, you know, 1 big sail at the front, then you've got another one behind. Why can you sometimes not do that? I mean, I'm thinking more sail, more power, great, let's put as many up as possible, but when does it hit that limit?
Yeah, I mean, you're generally doing it whenever you can, but obviously in light winds, sort of typically below about 7 knots, the staysail actually starts to suck air from the bigger sail, and so it won't be helping, it'll be harming it. And the key to knowing when that's happening is if you deploy the staysail and you need to start trimming on the big sail more and more as you deploy it, that normally means that it's sucking it, and it's probably better without it, as well as just looking at the numbers.
So like everything in sailing, there's a little bit of a hidden art and there's a little bit of practice that is required. Okay, well, we got a question about the racing, so let's sort of jump in with your opinion about this one. Michael Simpson asks, what do you think of the way that Team Axonabel and Sunhunkai Scallywag have set up for the doldrums, and will it pay off? Well, if you were watching the first part of the show, you'll know that Will Harris thinks that the doldrums, this leg is not going to be like what we saw on leg 4. But if we just take a little bit of a look at the tracker and see sort of where the boats are, Sunhunkai Scallywag, Team Axonabel, they're the boats furthest south. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good where they are, and I had a message actually from Libby Greenhouse, the navigator on Scallywag, a few days going, oh, that was a bit of a mistake when they went north. Obviously, now they've gone south. But I did see something today where she said, how are we going to get east? So I think...
There's a little bit of work to do then, maybe.
Yeah, it's not a big separation east to west, is it? But I know from this leg last time, not very much separation can make a big difference in this part of the world.
Well, certainly, if we look at the tracker here, this is the prediction. This is sort of rolling it forward. I mean, the computer models at the moment say that the racing is still going to be very close. And arguably, what you could say right now is it is close because Sunhunkai Scallywag and Team Axonabel have managed to pull themselves out of that little dodgy moment where they were stuck.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant that they're back in the room. It makes it exciting for us watching. It's probably not so fun for the people racing. And obviously, my money's on Capey, who has gone for, you know, the most easterly route. And I'm assuming that Capey's going to be right on Team Brunel, and that will be the best place to go into the equator.
All right, well, that brings us on to...
He's had a few laps.
He's had a few laps. He's had more than a few laps, bless him. Let's talk navigators then, because you brought it up. Ian Patterson asks, does the navigator have a more sort of 9 to 5 role rather than the mad shifts everybody else is on? And when they work, do they just sit at the computer for 8 hours?
I love this. I've got a vision of Capey sat at the computer with his slippers on, getting ready for sleeping. I mean, it's right that the navigator isn't in our normal watch system, typically. That won't be the case on all boats, but typically they're not. And they certainly spend a lot less time on deck. But most of the navigators are very good sailors. I know that Sci-Fi, for example, he drives a lot, and Capey, actually, I think he used to be a bowman originally, so, you know, I've been on the bow doing a J1 change, and he's been up there as well. So they certainly are on deck, but they get to choose a bit more when they're working, and obviously sometimes they don't get to sleep at all because there's so much going on. navigation-wise, and maybe other times they try and get a bit more rest in when they know nothing's going to happen.
How well do you know Andrew Cape's sort of body language to know he's pretty stressed right now? I need to handle him with sort of kid gloves.
You know, yeah, I think the really interesting thing for me this time, sailing with this team and sailing with people so experienced, is the patience of Capey and Bauer. And
right.
I really don't see them stressed particularly. I mean, even when it's going badly or something can be going really wrong, actually. And I think that's something, you know, really picking up from them is how relaxed they are. Of course, they're trying really hard, but just keeping it all together. It's a long race, it's a long leg. And so, yeah, I think sometimes you know when to approach Capey with caution, but he will always talk to you. And, you know, if you bring him a coffee with a little bit of chocolate sprinkled on top, you're in.
Oh, and Bauer Becking as well. I mean, as a skipper, this is somebody that's a real veteran of the Volvo Ocean Race, and I'm guessing it was a bit of a treat to be sailing with, you know, such a safe pair of hands with such a long pedigree in the race.
Yeah, in fact, my dad asked me, was I scared in leg 3 in the Southern Ocean leg? It was obviously a very tough leg and made more tough by having some broken bones for over half of it. And, you know, he asked if I was scared when the accident happened, and I really wasn't because, yeah, Bauer has just this aura of, well, he has so much experience, but when you're working with him, you can really feel that, you know that, and he just managed the situation so well. I didn't ever feel scared, even though perhaps I should have done.
Well, I think that's probably a compliment to yourself as much as it is to Bauer Becking as well. Let's take another question here from you guys watching at home. Venkat Ram asks, Annie, is there a diet regime you have to adhere to compete in the Volvo Ocean Race? And how long before the race starts?
Well, yeah, we don't tend to practice eating freeze-dried before the race, even though it might be better for our systems. But the Volvo isn't as strict as certainly I've had to be in my Olympic career because, you know, we're not racing within a weight category. Obviously, you want your body-to-weight ratio to be good. You don't want to carry lots of excess fat, but you don't want to be too thin either. In Team SCA, we certainly weren't allowed to be under 18% body fat for the girls because you do need to have, you know, you get battered out there and you need to have sort of some in reserve. So really, you just try and get as much protein and as much vitamins and minerals as you can in before the race starts because once you're on the leg, you're pretty much just eating carbs.
And is it nice being off the boat right now and being able to eat a normal balanced diet?
Yeah, I mean, being able to eat a normal balanced diet for sure, and also to be able to train because although on board it's very physical, you don't get to walk anywhere. And, you know, so some muscles really waste away while obviously you're grinding, so maybe your arm muscles are still being used, but just being able to, you do lose muscle, so being able to be in the gym every day is a big difference.
And it's hard physical work as well. I mean, I've seen some of you guys training and getting ready. I mean, it really is a marathon, but it's on the red line the whole time. You're stacking all the sails, must take its toll.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously moments in the race when it's quieter. Perhaps you've seen people going through the doldrums and the sort of sleeping on the bow. But yeah, there's other moments where it's just relentless and you're just carrying stuff around most of the time, sort of 100-kilo sails, each stacking bag's 25 kilos. And if the wind's up and down, you only need a 5-knot variation in breeze to be doing a lot of stacking. It's not just side to side, you know, it is fore and aft as well for trim. So we are moving the stack a lot.
How often are you moving the stack? I mean, every manoeuvre granted, but you mentioned forward and backwards. I mean, how much of a wind change requires a movement?
Not very much. I mean, 2 or 3 knots sometimes, depending on where the crossover is, and also which sail you're keeping up on the front, because it depends if you're at the top end of the sail or the bottom end of the sail. So you're trying to hang on to it, or you're trying to, you know, get the stack forward so you can keep a smaller sail for longer. So it's, yeah, it does change, but really, you're moving the stack a lot.
Wow. Okay, well, another question here from Ivan Holjar, who asked, Annie, what's your bet on the first team to cross the equator? Cheers from Southend-on-Sea. No dice, no way. The question is with you. You have to pick. I'm not doing that. I'm not passing that one over. You know perfectly well what to do. You have got only a few moments left to enter into our competition. It does close at midnight tonight. The first boat on the date and the time in UTC that you think is going to cross the equator. Annie would like you to think it is Team Brunel. I tell you what, fine. You put yourself on the line. Who is going to do it? And if it's going to be Team Brunel, how is it going to be Team Brunel? You guys are north at the moment. Is that feeling good for where you are?
Yeah, but I mean, positioned well east, and it looks at the moment like that's the place to enter the doldrums. I mean, just going to say, I think Capey's got it right here. I had a message from Bauer earlier today, actually, and he says, you know, they're really happy with their position, and also the boat speed's really good. So, yeah, my money's there.
Now, you mentioned communicating on and off the boats. This is a question that we get asked a lot by our audience. How much communication is allowed off the boat, and how much communication comes onto the boat? You've heard from the sailors. Can you email them as well?
Yes, I can email the sailors, but there is a whitelist, so you can't just send it to their normal email addresses. And to be honest, although I said I got a message earlier, I mean, that's an email that came in today, but there isn't that much communication. They're busy. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm particularly bad at it when I'm on board. I tend to zone out of the real world, but you're sort of in a different, you know, maybe that's one of the nice things about being offshore is your phone doesn't work.
Yeah.
But you'd probably be lucky to get 1 or 2 emails from me in a leg.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got a question here from Robin Hulley, a man after my own heart, who asks, Annie, do the crew play music on deck? That's my kind of sailing. That's the kind of sailing I enjoy.
Yeah, I love that question because, you know, I wish the answer was yes. But no, unfortunately, we don't play music on deck. I have to confess that certainly in Team SCA, there was quite a lot of singing on deck at times. Team Brunel don't seem so keen on that, but Abby and I have been trying to encourage them.
Because when you guys go down, you know, when you're off watch, I mean, you guys are up there pushing really hard for a couple of hours on watch. You go down below, do you sort of plug in some music? Do you watch something on a tablet or something, or do you just lights out?
I mean, it really depends on where you are in the leg. A lot of times, if you're not sleeping when you get a chance to, then you're stupid. You really need to be. I mean, you're pretty much eating, fixing something, or sleeping when you go below, or bailing, depending on where you are. But most of us do carry iPods, and sometimes it is amazing just to be able to listen to 1 or 2 songs and zone out slightly.
Okay, now I want to ask you a quick question here. We are running out of time, unfortunately. We are getting near the end of the show, so if you've got a burning question, you need to get it in now. You need to get it in quick. But Annie, oh, that's a very good point. I almost forgot. Annie will be back tomorrow, so you can have a little bit of thinking. You can join us on the Daily Show tomorrow as well. But Annie, before I let you go today, we've got so many fans who really want to know the ins and outs of making these boats go quick. Team Brunel, it's been fair to say, have not found their best speed in the early stages of the leg. I'm sure so much has been happening under the hood, tweaks, little adjustments. Is there anything that you can give us that you've said, we've done this, and it seems to make a positive difference, or is it all just hush-hush?
I mean, the boats are one design, and they're very strictly one design. Of course, there are little tweaks, but to be honest, it's just that age-old answer that it's time. And, you know, I think it's no surprise that Dongfeng and Mapfre out of the blocks were the fastest teams because they're 2 of the teams that have been sailing the longest and as fairly similar teams to the last race. It's the same boat, but the sails were quite different for this race from the last race. And they had the new sails first. They've been testing against each other with them. They're quicker. And the rest of us are playing catch-up on that. But I think now you see that, you know, Scallywag, Axonoble, us are. And it's time. It's just time and practice. There's no magic answer.
Well, certainly at the moment, Mapfre and Dongfeng, they are struggling a little bit. You can keep your eye glued onto the tracker, and if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to the Race Experts Twitter feed, and they will let you know when the tracker is being updated, when anything significant happens out there. Thank you very much, Annie. We're going to have to close it there, but Annie Lush is back with us tomorrow, live for our daily show at 1300 UTC. And as always, we're going to have a quick fix for you in the morning. We'll see you tomorrow.